town of Ipswich was founded by John Winthrop, Jr., on land that was originally inhabited by Native American tribes. Ipswich was named after a town in England where most of the first settlers originated. The Ipswich River provided a convenient location for establishing a new community, as the first settlers enjoyed the benefits of fresh water, including water power, fishing, and transportation. Early residents of Ipswich were farmers, fishermen, shipbuilders, and merchants. Ipswich prospered quickly, and by the mid-1700s the land was developed with bridges, wharves, storehouses, homes, a tannery, and a shipbuilding yard. The population grew steadily as well, and by only 1646 the town had 800 residents. In the 1700s, industries began to find Ipswich. Fishing was the most profitable industry in Ipswich, but newer industries like lace-making or distilleries developed as well, bringing more wealth to the area. Today, evidence of Ipswich's traditional heritage is still present. The town is well known for its early homes. Some 58 homes in the town were built prior to 1725, the largest number still standing and occupied of any community in the country. Merchants in New England traded the region's top exports, mainly textiles, fish, and lumber. Essex County was the large producer of these exports, especially Ipswich. There were many harbors in New England that were ideal for trading. The harbor's deep water allowed for large ships to pass easily. You may not be able to tell today, but in the 16th and 1700s, Ipswich Harbor was somewhat of a local capital for trade. However, over time, the water receded and the harbor became shallower, thus making it impractical for importing and exporting goods. New England was involved in a trading circle known as the Triangle Trade. In the Triangle Trade, merchants from New England would trade fish, lumber, textiles, and other goods with merchants from the Caribbean and the West Indies for sugar, molasses, and slaves. The sugar and molasses was then distilled into rum by the New Englanders. Then, the rum and other local items were traded with African merchants in exchange for slaves. The slaves were then carried back to the West Indies, where they were traded for tools, guns, and gunpowder. The triangle trade remained popular and profitable for the merchants until the early 19th century. John Elder Whipple was a self-made, upper-class merchant born in 1596 in Barking, England. Whipple left England for the New England colonies for both religious and political reasons. Whipple arrived in Ipswich around 1638 with his uncle Matthew, the first of their family to settle in Ipswich. Upon his arrival, he purchased the house from John Fawn. The house was a standout for its size and design in the 17th century, and it is still very famous today for its age and architecture. Today it is known as the Whipple House. After John Elder Whipple's death in June 1669, the house was given to his son, Captain John Whipple. Captain John Whipple was born in February 1625, the first American of his family. In 1770, Captain John made a large addition to the home, nearly doubling its size. Captain John Whipple was a merchant like his father. He earned heavy profits from his work and was considered upper class. Because of his high social standing and property ownership, Whipple was allowed to vote on town matters, a very important privilege. The Whipple House is one of the earliest first-period homes in the country. Constructed in 1638 with no nails, it is very unique. The house followed the typical East Anglican house plan consisting of timber frames and white plaster. The Whipple House has since been moved from its original location in Ipswich Center to 54 South Main Street on the outskirts of the town center. In 1927, the house was actually uprooted and moved to its current location. The house was built in 3 stages between the 1600s and the 1700s through 6 generations of the Whipple family. John Elder Whipple bought the original portion of the home in 1638. After his death, the house was passed down to Captain John Whipple. Under his ownership, he doubled the size in 1670. Next in line for the home was Mayor John Whipple, who added space to the back of the home. This completed the house for its present size today. At the time, the house was considered a mansion in Ipswich, and presently the house stands at 2.5 stories. The house is constructed in half houses or single-cell houses. It is separated into two parts referred to as the first house and the second house. The dividing line for these houses is along the chimney. The first house includes the kitchen, the chamber, and the attic. The chamber was designed for entertainment purposes, and the attic was designed for storage and lodging. The second house includes a parlor for entertaining, another chamber, and a hall. The kitchen was the main room of the house. Here, conversations were held and food was prepared. The largest fireplace was in the kitchen and was constantly in use for both heat and cooking. In the winter, the architecture of the Whipple house was designed to keep the family warm. The 4 fireplaces were constantly in use. The pane glass windows were designed to keep the heat in the room as well. Unfortunately, they have been replaced since the building of the home. As for furniture, both chambers included a bed, dresser, a fireplace, and a chair. The bed itself was decorated with lace, some of which was made by the Whipples themselves. The garden outside the Whipple house is almost as traditional as the house itself. A recreation of the housewives' garden is in place today outside the Whipple house. Typically grown in the garden were herbs and plants used for preparing food, toiletries, and medicine. Today, the John Whipple house is a national landmark. It is one of the very oldest surviving homes in the United States. The Ipswich Historical Society currently runs and maintains the house, which has been turned into a public museum, which has around 6,000 visitors annually.